This is Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, brought to you by the Iowa Soybean Association, your source for the latest Iowa ag news headlines right here in the heart of the heartland. With reports from our award-winning team of Dustin Hoffman, Riley Smith, Mark Magnuson, and Andy Peterson. Now, from the IARN studios in Des Moines, here's Riley.
Good day and welcome to Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network here at the Iowa State Fair. I'm Riley Smith. Today is Thursday, August 14th of 2025. We're here outside of the horse barn. We're so glad you can join us for today's show. In today's episode of Ag Matters PM, I will be visiting with Ron Kostyshyn. He is the Minister of Agriculture in Manitoba, Canada. We had a great conversation about not only Manitoba's ag industry, but the similarities between Manitoba and here in the state of Iowa. We'll also have a check of the closing markets with Cory Bratland of agmarket.net. But first, here is that conversation from this morning at the Iowa State Fair. Here from the Iowa State Fair at the IARN broadcast shed outside of the cattle barn. And I'm here now with the Manitoba Minister of Agriculture, Ron Kostyshyn. Ron, it's so great to have you here at the Iowa State Fair. First off, in your visit so far to the fair, what are some of the things that you've seen and enjoyed the most?
Well, you know what, first and foremost, thanks, Riley, for the invite and the opportunity to get on. You know what, we were here in January, we're back here again, and we're going to keep coming back. You know, Iowa is a great trading partner for the province of Manitoba, for Canada, as a matter of fact. And as I was indicating earlier, Manitoba pork exports 2 million weanlings on an annual basis here to Iowa. And often when I was down here, I'd had a conversation and asked why that kind of number, and they basically told us, the Iowa Porks, is biosecurity is number one, right? Because that's always an issue, right? And secondly, the genetics of the pork that comes out of Manitoba has value added of opportunity of finishing, and the finished product is acceptable. So I think those are two key components that agriculture is one of many things that we need to enhance upon with Iowa, Minnesota. We have a great working relationship.
Right, and with that relationship you mentioned with all those weanlings coming down to Iowa, so many Iowa producers are aware of the connection between Manitoba and Iowa. And I think it's kind of great to be able to get boots on the ground and see those connections in action at the Iowa State Fair.
It definitely is, and you know, it's such a major educational tool. Just walking around, like who would have ever thought seeing the butter statue that we've seen today, and then seeing the cow, that was obvious. But all I have to say is that I was an agriculture producer for 40 years of my life in Manitoba. I was in a mixed farming operation, cow-calf operation, and grain operation. And you know what, we sometimes we got to sit back and say to ourselves, thank goodness to our agriculture producers, because they're the ones that provide food, and the opportunity of continuing to help the producers out for the value added. And I also want to say this as well. My friend Annette Swee, Minister here of Iowa Senator, it's great to be here, and we've developed such a strong relationship based on Sorrel Convention. We were here last year in January, and we continue. And I want to just say that, you know, we have such a commonality between Iowa, province of Manitoba, across Canada, and all we can do is just better that working relationship and trade factor.
And I think it's great to highlight that relationship and just how similar that they can be. We know Iowa being one of the top ag producers in the United States, Manitoba being one of the top producers in Canada as well. Just how broad is that production over in your neck of the woods?
Well, definitely we're probably rated one of the highest as far as pork production, from the finishing to the processing and exporting out to European countries. You know, we're starting to do a lot more soybean production. Canola definitely is a very high, I call that the golden star as far as the cash crop goes in our state. We're going through some challenging times right now with canola prices, but that just seems to be the way it is. Soybeans is a very popular crop that tends to be growing a lot in our province of Manitoba. But at the end of the day, corn is also becoming very popular. It's simply because of, you know, our beef numbers have dropped so much, and we need to find out some more young generational opportunities for beef production. Definitely in my conversation in a number of agriculture producers across Canada, U.S. side, we're probably at cow numbers what they were in 1965 is what I've been told North American wide. So there's definitely a need for the beef production to kind of ramp up, opportunities for that to grow. And how do we do that? We need some young generational farmers to get back on the farm and provide economic spin-offs in our small communities and rural communities.
And I actually read that Manitoba is one of the higher rates for young generation farmers in Canada. Have you been able to see that yourself from your position, and kind of what have you done to foster that?
Well, basically, we keep saying that we're providing opportunities, and I'll give you one example from our lending opportunity, which is government monies that's been down. We've got a reduced interest rate loans for young producers that want to get into agriculture. There's a rebate form that comes in that you can get recompensated. If you make a principal payment, we'll give you some money back. We want to help you out for a number of years to get started in an opportunity. What we also have is we have crown land that's available at a reasonable rate to lease opportunities, because deeded land values have increased considerably. So, the alternative means of pasture grazing or forage establishment. And we continue to work. We have small communities, rural communities that need that growth. And I think that's where we're going to find opportunity of growth in the rural communities.
And I think that couldn't be more true for here in Iowa as well. You see much of the same thing. Visiting here at the Iowa State Fair, I have one last very important question for you. You can't come to the fair without trying some of the fair food. So have you been able to do that? And if so, what's been your favorite?
Well, I haven't done the full menu deal quite yet, Riley, but I want to tell you this. Definitely yesterday when I was flipping some pork chops over at the pork sector, it was an honor to be there, especially given the dignitaries that have been doing it over the years. It was truly my pleasure. I do not mind pork whatsoever, but I'm not going to label that the best. I have to complete my menu. And then I'll be able to make a judgment call if I could, Riley. We're going to go try some beef out shortly, and there's a corn cob, I think, is the next thing that's on the wish. Maybe some ice cream, I believe, is on the menu as well. So I got the full meal deal coming, but I haven't got it yet. I'll make that an opportunity happen.
Well, Ron, we hope you really enjoyed the rest of your visit to the Iowa State Fair. Thank you so much for stopping by, and enjoy the rest of your time here.
Well, let me just say, friends, neighbors, we really appreciate the commodity that we've got, and all we can do is continue to work for the betterment of agriculture food for the world, and for our farmers who work so hard to provide that for us in our country that we established, okay? Thank you so much, Riley.
Of course, great having you on, Ron. Thanks again to Ron Kostyshyn. He is the Minister of Agriculture from Manitoba. Thank you so much for stopping by. Also, thanks to Annette Sweeney of the Iowa Senate for organizing that visit and making it to where he was able to stop by the broadcast shed. We'll take a look at the closing markets next, but first here's a word from our sponsor, the Iowa Soybean Association and the Soy Checkoff. This is Ag Matters PM.
Iowa Soybean Association is driven to deliver for Iowa's 40,000 soybean farmers. We're proud to provide objective agronomic research, a helping hand with soil and water stewardship, and timely industry news powered by the Soybean Checkoff. Learn more at iasoybeans.com.
It's time now for the Ag Matters PM Closing Market Summary, your source for market analysis and settlement prices from the day's trade in Chicago, courtesy of the folks at agmarket.net.
Welcome back to Ag Matters PM on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, and we're joined now by Cory Bratland of agmarket.net to take a look at the closing market summary. Cory, earlier on this week, we got shook up pretty hard by the August WASDE report. As we look at the grain markets today, how have they continued to adjust to that?
Hey, Riley. Yeah, the soybean market took back a few cents here today, down going to close down around 15 cents lower. So a lot of that is nothing major out there. I think we've had about a 65 cent rally here this week on November contract of soybeans. So we are getting a little bit overbought. It is healthy for the market to pull back. I am also seeing, some of our basis levels down in the Gulf, out the PNW, some of our export markets are under a little bit of pressure here. So I think we're starting to see some business getting done as far as, commercial elevators selling some of those to some of those end destinations. And that's causing the basis to widen out or soften a little bit. I think that's trickling into the soybean market. Also, we had August soybean futures went off the board at noon today. A lot of times, that can kind of play some funny things here with the markets as one of the contract months goes off the board.
And then when we look in general, moving forward in the marketplace, once again, back to that weather market. Weather's been good. Disease pressure has been a little different. And I know we have the Pro Farmer Crop Tour coming up next week. A bit of volatility here, or do you think we might settle in a little bit?
Yeah, definitely. I think we're going to see some volatility. I mean, when my takeaway on this USDA report here on Tuesday was, we still got some growing season left to go of this soybean crop. Corn market crop feels like it's pretty big, although that crop could be coming down. But on the soybeans, we've been drier in that eastern part of the Corn Belt, Ohio, Indiana, probably a southeast third of Illinois, and those guys carry some big weight when it comes to the final yield. So if when I look at the carryout situation and projected at 290 million bushels, if you just take off one bushel, Riley, you're down to 210 million bushel carryout. That gets to be very tight here in the U.S., and that would still be a record yield. So we are going to have to watch this weather closely. They are kind of moving the heat kind of more back, the warmer temps back to the western Corn Belt up in my area here in South Dakota, which we will gladly take because we need to have as many growing degree days as we possibly can. The corn market, I think, too, is going to finish pretty good, although we are hearing more and more chatter about tip back, okay? And then we're also still seeing disease in the soybeans and in the corn, too. So I think there is a little bit of optimism out here and I think we might see it next week with the Pro Farmer Crop Tour as they get out in the fields, that we might see a little more of this tip back and maybe cause this yield not to be this 188.8, but could come down maybe a bushel or two, but it's still going to be a pretty big crop out here when the dust settles.
And then over on the livestock side of things, how do cattle and hogs trade today?
Yeah, live cattle down about $2.50 to $3. So they started out a little stronger on the day, backed up here. I haven't heard anything specific, but when you're dealing with $2 or $230, $235 live cattle on the futures, just a normal trading range nowadays is going to be $3-4. Feeder cattle down 5 to 6, and lean hogs end of the day down about $1.50 to $1.75. So not a lot of news. I'm just kind of suspicioning, cash might be just steady here for the time being.
All right, Cory, lots of great information today. For anyone who would like to get in touch with folks at agmarket.net and learn more, how can they do that?
Yeah, best way, just head on over to our website, which is agmarket.net, and you can get a hold of us that way.
All right, Cory, thanks again for your time as always, and we'll talk again soon.
You bet. Thanks, Riley.
That again was Cory Bratland of agmarket.net. We'll take a look at how the numbers close through the market window at iowaagnet.com. At the close, September corn up 1 even at 375 even. September soybeans down 16.5 at 1007.5. Soybean meal down 270 at 284.30. Soybean oil down $1.40 at 51.99. Chicago wheat down 3 3/4 at 503.5. Kansas City hard red wheat down 2.5 at 504.25. Minneapolis spring wheat down 3 3/4 at 573.25. September oats up 1/4 cent at 332 even. On the Merc, August live cattle down 220 at 233.35. August feeders down 547 at 340.40. October lean hogs down $1.65 at 89.12. Pork cutout went unchanged at 102.22. And August Class 3 milk down 2 cents at 17.40. That's been a check in the markets here on Ag Matters PM, and that also brings us to the end of today's show. You can find all of our content on our website at iowaagnet.com. Also follow us on social media at Facebook, X, LinkedIn, and TikTok, and find our video content as well as previous episodes of AM PM on our YouTube channel. Make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell to see when those videos go live. Don't forget as well to check out our free morning, midday, and closing market podcasts, as well as the Iowa Ag Matters podcast and Pods of Potential. Find those on your favorite podcasting services at Apple, Amazon, Spotify, and Podbean. From the Iowa State Fair here in Des Moines, I'm Riley Smith. On behalf of the entire IARN broadcasting crew, we thank you for joining us today. This has been Ag Matters PM.